So I'm currently a student at a university. I've been enrolled for a few years and got about 2 semesters left after this one. As a result, I've had some interesting stories happen over that time, and I figured I'd talk about one of them this week. This certainly is not because I forgot to make a video until 9 p.m. on Sunday, 3 hours before the end of the week. Lately, though, I've been staying up on Sunday nights to publish my videos at 3 to 5 a.m. on Monday, which I kind of wish I was better at, but at the same time, college is kind of ramping up, and that's making it harder to work on videos. Last week, I was averaging about 5 hours of sleep, which I can handle that just fine for 2 days. But when that streak continues, I just break down. That's a joke. I was fine. And it's pretty dumb for college students to complain about their sleep schedules, since college is just a skill check to see how well you can balance living life anyway. If you're not getting enough sleep, just live your life more efficiently, and you'll be fine. Usually. But I digress. I'm getting a little off topic. So, like I mentioned, I'm currently in college and have quite a bit of the college experience under my belt. Now, the following story involves a little bit of the drama that takes place at my college. Now, this drama does not include me specifically. I'm more of an observer in this case. I've had to deal with the certain byproducts of this drama, but overall, my social life is fairly mundane. But in my defense, I don't have time for much of a social life. I am really busy, and when I do have free time, I usually like to spend it doing more productive stuff. One of my friends will message me if I want to go out to eat for dinner, and I'll just look at the door, and then I'll look at my computer with Team Fortress 2 installed, and then I'll think about what having a fulfilling and productive night with friends will entail, and then I think about what hitting a really sick rocket jump on Swiftwater will feel like, and oh no, now I'm confused! Now today's fun story involves a group project. I imagine you may be able to piece together something from that. So I'm currently at school for video production, minoring in photography and graphic design. So in return, I get projects on a weekly and bi-weekly basis for most classes. And these range from rent out a camera and take 6 pictures, all the way to professors asking us to make short films with insane amounts of equipment. And as is the standard in college, there is a really strict deadline. The project has to be turned in by the start of the class, or it is late and you immediately fail. Except this generation of students is actually so incompetent that this was turned into a high school-esque, every day it's late, you lose 10 points sort of deal. Because, nobody likes to do their assignments now for some reason. Anyway, so I'm on my 6th semester, and I have never passed a project in late. Never. They're always on time, except for one, I just lied. But there was some external stuff going on, so my professor cleared me, and I was all set. But anyway, I was nearing the end of my 5th semester, so I was a junior at this point, and I was in a class called Camera in Motion, which was basically a class where you film projects, but you have to, incorporate camera movement in some capacity. And this class was an absolute, nightmare, not because of the workload, or the professor, or even the content material itself. Those were all fine. It was actually the class itself that was horrible. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I have a good or neutral opinion of everybody in that class for one reason or another, but oh my god, everyone in the class had a problem with somebody else from that class. There were so many conflicts throughout the year, it was insane. And normally that would not have mattered at all. Except for the fact that every single project in the class was a group assignment, and it was random who we would be with. Now, some of the problems in the class could range from, people just not doing any work in their groups, all the way to people who could not work with each other to the point where they had to ask the professor in private to make sure they never ended up together. There was also a lot of, other problems as well, lack of communication, certain group members wouldn't show up to help film projects, etc., etc., and it was a nightmare overall. Now, we were assigned to 3 different groups of 3 over the course of the semester, and had 2 projects we had to do with each group. a practice one where we would use a new piece of camera equipment, and a final one where we would go all out using said equipment to try and make something somewhat presentable. Our first two projects were with a jib, the next two were with a dolly, and the last two were with a Steadicam. Now, despite everything going on, my first two groups, they went pretty well. My first one, we had a few hiccups regarding communication, and the night we were shooting was pretty stressful, since we had 3 actors, and we didn't plan things out super well, and we filmed late at night. So we only got a B on that assignment as well. It wasn't our best work, but overall it was pretty good. Now my second group was the best one, I think the best project and the best group I have had in school here. We held meetings beforehand, we planned everything out, we had 2 actors, and we shot off campus, in the city, so it was pretty unique. We ended up getting an A on that assignment, after, a 10-hour day of filming, so, that was awesome. Legitimately, one of the, some of the most fun I've had, was on that project. Although there was some foreshadowing, going on in the background of these projects, as the other groups were not having as good of a time with everything going on. During our first group, actually, one of the best students at our school ended up having to pass in an assignment a week late because someone in her group wouldn't send them the footage. The professor ended up giving them a pass though, reinforcing how little any of the preconceived rules regarding passing in assignments worked. Anyway, eventually we were getting down to the last project, and I was a little nervous for my last group, mainly because the only people left in the class for me to work with were people who had garnered really bad reputations for group work. So eventually we went into the class near the end of the semester, and we were greeted with our final group assignments. And I was with the classmate who I previously mentioned had caused their group to turn in an assignment a week late. And I was with another student who had gained a reputation for not contributing anything and would not initiate any form of contact whatsoever. Now, I was kind of stressed about this, especially since it was our final project. Our professor intended it to be our best work of the semester, and things were not looking good off the bat. So after we got our assignments, we had our Thanksgiving break. So everyone went home for a few days, and during this time, I figured I would reach out to my group members and try to make a plan for filming. I ended up writing them a message basically saying hey, you guys got any ideas? What are your schedules? And we should try to film the week we get back. I also ended it by adding a few of my own ideas for the project. And I got no response for 5 days. I ended up writing a slightly more passive-aggressive message, which got their attention, basically saying the same thing again in a more blunt term, which is when I got one response basically telling me that they had no idea what we could do our project on. And at this point we were back from Thanksgiving break, and we had 2 weeks left to do the project. Now, I wanted to film the first week we got back, but since there was 0 plans in development, I knew that would be, impossible. So I ended up scheduling a meeting later that week where we would actually come up with an idea, since I had, some ideas, but obviously this was a group project and I couldn't just, call all the shots, and I was just getting ghosted by my teammates. So near the end of the week, we met up to discuss the project. And 2 of us ended up coming up with what our project was to be about. The third person just kind of sat there and laughed at all the jokes we were making, and when we asked them if they wanted to contribute anything, they actually said no, and then just kind of changed the subject. So that was fun. So from here, we actually had to meet with our professor to tell him about our project. So we planned a meeting for that the next day after his class. Now, the students and I who actually planned out the project were both there on time and ready to go. We were waiting for the professor by the door. However, the third student sent a message saying he was going to be a few minutes late and that he had to run to the bathroom. Now, obviously, this is fine. We figured, hey, we'll just start our pitch to the professor, and he could just finish it off when he arrived. So 35 minutes later, we were starting to get, like, really impatient, and our professor was just not having it at all. And so eventually the third student arrived and proceeded to not know what our project was about, which was just so much fun. I fucking loved this project. Anyway, after that mess was, like, all sorted out, we actually had to plan a filming day. And due to our time management, this meant we had to film on the last week of the semester, which was already the busiest week of the semester, and adding the filming of a final project on top of that was already looking like a train wreck in the making. So I wrote a script for the project, and found a day we were all free, and went back to my apartment to prepare for the final week of classes. Alright, so this video was a bit longer than I expected, so I'm gonna break it into 2 parts, because, like, oh boy, was filming this project fun! And I don't want this video to be, like, 20 minutes long. I know story-based videos may not be the most entertaining thing in the world, and I probably sound like a douchebag for complaining about a college group assignment on the internet, but I figured it would be a fun story. I'll probably post part 2 soon, but in the meantime, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe so you don't miss me rambling about 2 strangers in the future.